Where's the slide coming from? There it is. Mellon coming hard, and there's the flag. Cohan, doesn't matter. Duke wins it in overtime.
Hi, this is Peter Katrumpis reporting for Inside Lacrosse here at Koskinen Stadium in Durham, North Carolina, following a dramatic 16-15 overtime win that the Duke Blue Devils put on the Syracuse Orange. Trailing most of the game, Duke finally put it together, outscoring the Orange 5-1 in the final quarter before winning it in overtime on Chad Cohan's goal. Deemer Class scored 7 goals, a career high, to lead the Blue Devils and keep them in it throughout, as Cohan's hat trick as well as Justin Gutterding's helped to keep Duke close by. Trailing 14-10 into the fourth quarter, Duke then took control and established their possessions in a structured manner, picking away at the lead until they finally tied it. And then Class deposited his 7th goal of the game with 6:28 to go to put Duke ahead. Not holding on for regulation time, Duke finally got that possession on the last setup of the game, coming off the faceoff from Kyle Rowe, to eventually set up a pass from Jack Bruckner to Chad Cohan to score the winner. From Koskinen Stadium in Duke, North Carolina, this is Peter Katrumpis reporting for Inside Lacrosse.
Johns Hopkins headed to the University of Virginia in a special Easter Sunday edition of the Battle for the Doyle-Smith Cup. Once again, an ESPNU game meant we would get 5 quarters of lacrosse. The Blue Jays got off to a quick start, building an early 4-0 lead, but Virginia eventually settled in, slowly chipping away with a 6-0 run into the third quarter, sparked largely by dominating the faceoff X with great wing play, allowing the Cavaliers to enjoy extended possessions and build an 8-6 lead. But Hopkins exploded for 3 goals in 32 seconds at the end of the third to take a 9-8 lead of their own. From there, the scorers took over in the fourth quarter, as the teams exchanged goals back and forth. A Cody Razowitz score with 2:40 left in the game gave Hopkins a 12-11 lead. But Virginia wasn't done. Greg Cajon scored with 20 seconds left to send us to the extra session. In overtime, Virginia won the draw and even drew an early flag. But with 3:41 left, Mike DeMario became the hero, isolating on the low wing, coming straight at the cage, and scoring as he laid out across the face of the goal. After a heartbreaking OT loss last week to Notre Dame, in which Virginia squandered a late lead, the victory over Hopkins is surely a great rebuilding moment and easily the Cavaliers' best win of the season.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Epic ILGameday show. We're here in the Baltimore Inside Lacrosse studios. I'm Matt Kinnear here with Jeff Shannon. #1 stunner today, #1 Denver, brought down by unranked Penn State in a neutral site game in Texas. This weekend, we're going to go the first weekend where we're going to be wondering who the #1 team in the country is at the end of the weekend. Jeff, you watched this game. What are your big takeaways from this loss by Denver and this win by Penn State?
I think the key to today's game was possession. Penn State was able to control the possession time. Key stat for me was their face-off man, Billy Lombardi. He finished the game 13 for 28. Trevor Baptiste, Denver's huge #1 face-off guy, beat him in the face-off stats, but that was only late in the game. He's won the final 4 face-offs, like where Denver came back a little bit with some scoring, but really Billy Lombardi controlled a good chunk of this game, and specifically the third quarter, where he went 6 for 6. That was a key period of time. Penn State also scored 4 goals in that period of time, and even in the face-off battles, the second quarter, Denver went 7 of 9 in the face-offs there, but because of possession time, because of turnovers, Penn State was able to get the ball back, and they ended up scoring their most goals in that second quarter, 6 goals for the game. Big contributors today, Dan Craig had 3 goals for Penn State, seemed to be really working off-ball well, got in position, was able to score effectively. TJ Sanders, Grant Ament, and Matt Florence all had 2 goals apiece. Nice play from those guys. One key note with the offense, 9 of the 16 goals were assisted for Penn State, so a lot of guys moving the ball around, making sure that people were getting touches and getting the ball into the net. So really possession time. Penn State controlled possessions. They controlled ground balls, won those 31-27, and were able to contain Denver a little bit offensively until the end and really attack their defense throughout the game. There were a lot of big games in the Ivy League today. I know, Matt, you were watching a lot of those. What were some of your impressions out of today?
You know, in the preseason, I actually picked Yale to win the national championship, so I'm still sticking to that. You know, this weekend they had a win against Princeton, one that, you know, that wasn't really dominant, but they kind of held serve and beat Princeton, held off a comeback. Brown was actually off this weekend with a bye week, but with Yale, you know, I'm just incredibly impressed by their balance that they have. You know, they had a lot of different, I think they had 7 different goal scorers in this game. You know, really they're a team that's built on defense, but they were really able to capitalize on Princeton's mistakes, score some goals in transition, really make a lot of stuff offensively happen. I don't think people realize how good Yale's offense really is. And Princeton just, you know, they were in this game at the end, but they just can't make the mistakes that they're making. Their defense needs to improve. They were 9 of 14 on clearing. The last play of the game was an offsides where they had a chance to come back and tie the game. That's just not something you can do in crunch time. That's just not a mentally tough thing for an Ivy League team to do. So again, really impressed with Yale. Princeton has some work to do, but the team that I'm really, really impressed with so far in this, you know, kind of midway point of the season is Penn. Penn has really kind of snuck under the radar this year a lot. You know, Harvard had that crazy start to the year with all those overtime finishes. You know, Yale and Brown have just been playing so well and undefeated that Penn is kind of just sitting there in the middle of the Ivy League, not really getting the attention, but they're really putting together a good season. You know, last week they doubled up Princeton and they scored 20 goals. They followed that up with today beating Cornell 9-6. 9-6 really isn't a fair score for this. They really dominated this game. You know, really they could have put up 13 goals on Cornell and I wouldn't have been surprised. It's a really young team, but you know, it's a team that it's going to get a lot better throughout the season. They have been getting better. You know, no longer do they rely solely on Nick Doctor back there for offense. You saw Alex Rosner today with a hat trick. A really strong freshman goalie in Reed Junkin. He had 14 saves today. So Penn is really going to be a team to watch out for in this Ivy League play. Obviously, Brown and Yale are two, you know, really special teams this season, but Penn is right there behind them and really a team that can make some noise.
Dan Abern here for Inside Lacrosse at Maryland Stadium, where I just saw Maryland defeat North Carolina 11-8. Big story in this game was the play of Connor Kelly. He had that big game against North Carolina in the quarterfinals last year, and he had another great game today. He finished with 3 goals and 3 assists. Another great player for the Terps was Matt Rambo. He finished with 4 goals, won his matchups consistently. Another thing Maryland did very well was they played very well against North Carolina's 10-man ride. They went 14 for 16 on clears, and that's a place where the Tar Heels are used to getting extra possessions. Maryland did a great job on that today. And Maryland, a rarity for them, they lost the face-off battle 11 of 23. Kyle Burnler was also excellent in cage, 9 saves for him. Overall, a pretty big win for Maryland. Their off-ball movement was really sharp today, and their players were able to consistently win their matchups. As for UNC, sort of a tough loss, a quality team to lose against, but for them, the inconsistency in their season is something that's puzzling for them.
That's it for the Epic ILGameday recap show. Be sure to follow all the scores on the Epic scoreboard on InsideLacrosse.com. I'm Matt Kinnear. This is Jeff Shannon. Be sure to gear up for the rest of the season with the Gen 6 Dragonfly Shaft, Ultralight Otter Mesh, and the Sequel Head.